Hello and welcome to another Tycho video. Over the past 12 months I have been working on a very ambitious project. It was in July of last year that I had stumbled upon a post on an astronomy forum where somebody had pointed out this tutorial video I'd put together on how to construct a light curve. And their remark on that was that this looks to be pretty interesting. Tycho seems like a pretty cool piece of software, but it only runs on Windows and I have a Mac, they said. And so the question was, is there any way I could get Tycho to run on my Mac computer? Well, there are a couple of approaches to that, one of which is to use emulation software. Now, that is not the most optimal solution for a few reasons, one of which is that emulation software, you may have to pay money for it. It can be difficult to configure properly, and three, it could impose a performance penalty. So the best approach really would be to have Tycho itself run natively on the Mac. And that way you wouldn't have to have any emulation software. Now, of course, if I were to do this all over again, if I had to develop Tycho from scratch, probably the smartest thing would have been for me to choose a cross-platform development framework, and then I would have gotten such functionality essentially for free. However, such frameworks are not bulletproof either. They can have their own set of issues. One being that licensing problems can occur. They might have a problem whenever they upgrade the framework. It could break certain functionality in your software because now you've become dependent upon that framework. So what I'm really getting at is that there really is no universally good solution to this problem. And in any case, I had already developed Tycho to run natively on the Windows platform. So in my situation, I was curious. It was in September of last year that I went out and I bought a MacBook Pro, and I set up a development environment, and I wanted to answer the question, would it be possible, would it be feasible to develop a version of Tycho that runs natively on the Mac? So after 12 months, I now have the answer to that question. The answer is yes, it is possible. But it was an enormous undertaking. It was a lot of time and effort. And in fact, I will have another video for those of you who are curious about it, documenting what is it like to develop on the Mac platform, what were some of my experiences with that effort. But for this video here and today, I am pleased to announce that Tycho now runs natively on the Mac platform. In fact, it supports not just the newer Apple Silicon, but also the older Intel-based Mac computers as well. In fact, you probably would not realize it, but this laptop here is actually almost 10 years old. This is a 2014 MacBook Air that I bought off of eBay, and it has an Intel Core 2 CPU. In other words, it is absolutely ancient by modern standards. Nevertheless, it is able to run Tycho just fine. In fact, here it is. Tycho is running, and you can see here a light curve is being shown. So I just think that's really cool that we now have this capability. Now, I have been asked by others, why are you spending so much time and effort into this? Mac is only 20% of the market. They're overpriced machines. Well, my response to that is that yes, that may have been true in the past, but with the advent of Apple Silicon, Mac computers are actually quite competitive. In fact, they're very power efficient. You can run a MacBook all day long on a single charge. And if you compare with equivalent hardware specifications, Mac computers are actually very good value for the money. And in the education sector, they are actually quite popular. So all this is to say, it's very nice to have choices. It's very nice to have options. So now you can run Tycho on both Windows and on Mac. So for the rest of this video, I'd like to share some highlights on what is it like to use Tycho on the Mac, what are some cool features you can use with it on the Mac, and I'll have other videos going into more detail on how to set it up, how to configure it, how to use certain functionality in more detail. But just for the rest of this video, I'll just have a quick overview on, again, what does it look like? How does it feel to use Tycho on the Mac? Again, what are some cool features you can use? So with that, let's go ahead and get started. So one of the cool features here, just to get started with as an example, is the ability to easily identify all of the known objects within a field of view. So as I zoom in here, you can see that this is minor planet number 38826, And if I wanted to, I could pan around the view and you could see all of the other known objects that have been identified. And what's nice about this is that this works with any image sequence that has been plate solved, so it is very easy to use. Of course, one of the fundamental features of Tycho is the ability to not just identify already known objects, but to potentially discover new objects. So here, as you can see, Tycho on the Mac works just as well as it does on Windows, where it is very easy to scroll through a list of candidate detections and see if there might be a new discovery. Now, when I started this video, the feature of interest centered around the ability to construct a light curve. In other words, that was the topic of the post in the astronomy forum. That person, they wanted the ability to construct a light curve using their Mac computer. Now, of course, the Mac version of Tycho has essentially the same functionality as what we've come to expect from the Windows version, but I did want to take just a moment here to highlight this feature in particular. So here you can see I am able to modify aperture settings. So this allows me to choose an optimal measuring aperture for this target. Now, once I've done that, then I can proceed to create a list of comparison stars. In other words, these are stars that will be used in the differential photometry process. So I can right click and choose add to active comp stars, and I only need about 5 or 6 of them. Once I have that initial list, then I can go through and determine if any of them are suboptimal. If so, I can remove them. And next, after I have this final list of comparison stars, then I can proceed to generate the photometry data points. And one of the ways I can do that is I can simply right click in this field and choose create photometry from ephemeris, because earlier I attached ephemeris information to the data set. Then I can plot the data points. So here, as you can see, this is the light curve of this object. And if I wanted to, I could give it a title. So this is Ivar, number 1627. And I could also try to determine its rotation period. Now, typically you want to have more than one night of data, but for this example, this is just a quick way to show what this process looks like. So indeed, I am going through this pretty quickly. So if you do want to learn more about this, how this process works, the user guide has a lot more detail on that. And there are also tutorial videos that cover this as well. But in any case, this is just to show what this process looks like on the Mac. Indeed, I think it's pretty awesome that we now have this capability. So it's no longer exclusive to Windows. We can also carry this out on the Mac as well. So that's about it for this video. I want to thank you for watching and see you next time.